All right, let's get started. Om Ganana Tva Ganapatigam Abamahe Kavim Kabinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashunvan Nodibasi Dasadanam Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Prano Devi Saraswati Vaje Bhirvajanivati Dhinam Avitriyavato Mahasaraswatye Namaha Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha गुरुवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः अस्मिन् गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः देवीं वाचमजनयन्त देवाः तां विश्वरूपा पशवो वदन्ति सा नो मन्द्रेषु मूर्जन्दुहाना धेनुर्वागस्मानुपतिष्ठुतैतु व्यासं वदिष्ठनप्तारं शक्तेः पौत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकतातं तपोनिधिं व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्महृदये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः श्रीललिता महात्रिपुरसुन्दरी समेत श्रीचन्द्रमौळीश्वराय नमः श्रीकाञ्चीकामकोटिपीठाधिपति जगद्गुरु श्रीशङ्कराचार्य श्रीचरणयोः प्रणामाः स्वस्ति श्रीमदखिलभूमण्डलालङ्कार त्रयत्रिंशत्कोटिदेवता सेवित श्रीकामाक्षी देवी सनाथ श्रीमदेकाम्रनाथ श्रीमहादेवी सनाथ श्रीहस्तगिरिनाथ साक्षात्कार परमाधिष्ठान सत्यव्रत रामाङ्कित काञ्ची दिव्यक्षेत्रे शारदा मठस्वस्थितानाम् अतुलितसितार समाधुर्य कमलासन कामिनी धम्मिल्ल सम्फुल्ल मल्लिका मालिका निष्यन्द मकरन्द झरी सौवस्तिक वाग्निकुम्भ विजृम्भणानन्द तुन्दुलित मनीषि मण्डलानाम् अनवरताद्वैत विद्या विनोदरसिकानां निरन्तरालङ्कृतीकृत शान्तिदान्ति भूम्नां सकलभुवनचक्रप्रतिष्ठापक श्रीचक्रप्रतिष्ठा विख्यात यशोऽलङ्कृतानां निखिलपाषण्डषण्डकण्टकोद्धाटनेन विशदीकृतवेदवेदान्तमार्गशन्मतप्रतिष्ठापकाचार्याणां श्रीमत्परमहंसपरिव्राजकाचार्यवर्य श्रीजगद्गुरु श्रीमच्छङ्करभगवत्पादाचार्याणाम् अधिष्ठाने सिंहासनाभिषिक्त श्रीमच्चन्द्रशेखरेन्द्र संयमीन्द्राणाम् अधिष्ठाने सिंहासनाभिषिक्त श्रीमज्जयेन्द्र संयमीन्द्राणाम् अन्ते वासिवर्य श्रीमच्छङ्करविजयेन्द्र श्रीपादानां च शरणधरणयोः सप्रश्रयं साञ्जलिबन्धं च नमस्कुर्मः गुरुभ्यो नमः. Yeah, so all of you can take your video off on mute and we can get started. If in case you are not familiar with what I chanted, let me start with the concept. I already spoke about the Vigneshwara Dhyanam, Saraswati Dhyanam, Guru Dhyanam in detail in the first class. So, no obstacles prayer. Make sure that our chanting is accurate. So, blessings of Vagdevi or Goddess Saraswati, and then followed by Gurus. Have the Guru's blessings, and I think I stressed enough on the Guru Parampara concept in our system. We don't rely on internet CD printed matter because they're all made by humans and it is bound to have mistakes. And the importance of learning these things from a proper, well trained guru with knowledge is very, very important because I learned from somebody, so I think I'm qualified to teach people. If I didn't learn it from a proper source, I'll be misleading many people. So it can expand and we will be spreading false knowledge, thinking that we're doing a great job. Yesterday, only last night, I had a 1 hour meeting with somebody and then it extended for 2.5 hours. So many things they learned at this late age. They are older to me by 10 years. Very spiritual, a lot of Vedic learning, etc. But then they were shocked because oftentimes in our generation or previous generation, we were taught don't ask questions, just do what I say. I don't think Shastra says that. The very essence of learning process is ask questions and explore. But ask the right questions to the right people and get the right answer. That is a missing link there. So knowledge has to be shared, but after obtaining it in the right way. So Guru Parampara has been extensively stressed, which is where if you have a goddess picture and a guru's picture, you accord the higher status to the guru because without the guru you cannot reach God. That is the essence of authentic teaching. And you will know why, and more so in the context of Vedic learning, why it is so important. We heard the concept on importance of nada, and I had shared. Did I share any particular article on WhatsApp with the group? It was an interesting response by a Stanford professor to a question that was asked in the class by a student. I think I shared that, right? Because I forget now which group I shared what. No? Okay, then I have to share it. um, in one of the other spiritual groups where I do a lot of talks there, one of the guys were very excited. He's a Gujarati guy, very spiritual. He said, "I found this interesting." I said, "So I normally don't take time to read immediately." That was one thing very curious. So I wanted to know, is there something new that I can learn? Without belittling any other religion or trying to go into religious connotations, I was shocked. Padmajaji, you will relate to what I'm saying even more than others because you're into Sri Vidya. Every concept that we are aware of in Sri Vidya and the basics that we have learned is all written in that one chapter. Mind boggling. And I talked about Nadam, right? Om started, and then the various other sounds started, Bijaksharas, and then we formed the five elements. From the five elements, we were formed. The only difference was there he was talking about light as a source and sound as a source. He's talking of Prakasha Vimarsha. He's talking of Spandana. Everything, except that it's not in Sanskrit, it is in English. And that life existed for several yugas and kalpas, billion years. I said, show me one device or instrument that the scientists have discovered by which you can confidently say, I know how old this object is. Even carbon dating, etc., if you apply, they're all very hypotheses. They're not actual calculations. So, without digressing much, it is important to understand what we are trying to do. So, that is where the PDF, which contains just about a few slides, is very, very important. For Vedic students, they are taught in a different way, the same thing. It's called Taittiriya Upanishad. It contains Shikshavalli, Anandavalli, and Bhriguvalli. Shikshavalli starts with the first line. Without knowing these basics, one cannot learn Vedam and be confident that they are chanting it right. So, without much ado, let's go to the basic elements of chanting. First is Varna. Varna is pronunciation. So, bear with me if I repeat certain things in these classes because there are too many classes going on. I'm not able to keep track of where I don't prepare any of these talks. It just comes extempore. So sometimes it may be repetitive, but it will be all good repetition. Uh, Sanskrit is the only language which has gone to the scientific definition of how to pronounce each and every letter, vowel or consonants, hard consonants, soft consonants, and classification of composite consonants, etc. It is also the only language where you can break it down to the most derivative form of the letter or combine everything into one word, and you can write a 500-page book with one word without changing the meaning. Which is why for computing industry, it is considered as the perfect language. So whether you want to use Sanskrit as a binary translation mechanism, etc., Sanskrit is the most aligned and perfectly suited language. So having said that, there are total of 5,500 rules. 5,500 rules. Rules are sandhis. And so somebody will say, so how do you know it is 5,500? There was nothing like given on a platter. Sanskrit existed as a language. There were some giants like Panini who did reverse engineering of that. Patanjali and Panini are two great contributors to understanding Sanskrit. So the great Panini reverse engineered and said, okay, this language, by the way, can be understood if you understand these 5,500 rules. So imagine the genius of that person who could reverse engineer an existing language to make it codified for us. And there are geniuses who have spent a lot of time in understanding and explaining Sanskrit. Patanjali Mahabhashyam is again another great topic, and I can take some credit for carrying a good lineage here because my dad was a student at Annamala University. His professor, renowned professor, was Dr. P.S. Subramanian Shastri, double PhD, PhD in Sanskrit and PhD in Veda. And he used to teach Patanjali Mahabhashya in the class. After many years, destiny was such that when my older sister was to be married, she found a suitable groom. And in the course of initial discussions, it was discovered they are also Samavedis like us. And my brother in law's grandfather is Dr. P.S. Subramanian Shastri. So, why am I talking a personal story here? Is because I was blessed because I learned Vedam in 74. Somebody thought I'm fit to get more books or information like this, that this guy will be able to appreciate this. The next generation of Dr. P.S. Subramanian Shastri decided that his hand notes, which he conducted the classes for all those years, was all lying idle in the cupboard. They said such a good note should not be kept private. They brought it out, they published books, and many of us in the family we got free copies. They're running into about nearly 16 spiral binders and still not done. I kept it as it is in my library as a showpiece for 1 year, and then I decided to pick up one and start reading it. My head was spinning. Trust me. So, point is not to scare you, but to make you aware of how precious these things are that we probably don't spend time to value their role in our life. Sanskrit, I don't need to learn Sanskrit. I'm comfortable with English, etc., etc. Minus Sanskrit, your lock and key for that treasure of knowledge in our system is not accessible to you. So immediately somebody said, "Oh, these days we have Google Translator. For everything we have Google." There are certain things that Google also does not know because Sundar Pichai is not a PhD in Sanskrit. So I've given that example in Devi Matyam class. There is a shloka which talks about Bharya. So, by applying a Visarga rule that I will talk about in a minute, you have substitution of Visarga by the Akshara Ir. So, when I said Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, that Ir is important. Some people say, oh, it's okay. I have been taught like Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, I will keep chanting like that. I'm very comfortable like that. It's not about what your comfort level is. If that shloka you chant without the Ir, instead of getting or asking Ambal, protect my wife and bless my wife, you're actually demanding destruction of her. One letter not pronounced properly, you don't know what you're asking for. Similar thing if you find in the basic of Vedic chanting, you have Rudram, Chamakam, Purusha Sukta. It's a package. So while Rudram and Purusha Suktam are the most important things, why Chamakam is so important? Because we are very selfish. We don't do anything without return on investment. So we chant 11 Anuvakas of Rudras and please Rudra. Immediately we chant 11 Anuvakas of Chamakam. That ensures that there is nothing that you have missed under this planet Earth as a wish. Saying that I have pleased you, now give me all this. Agna Vishnu Sajosha Sema Vardhanta Vangiraha Dhumnairvaje Viragatam Vajashchame Pradavashchame Prayatishchame. One by one we keep saying Chame 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 na, you just keep on giving me this. We have a huge laundry list of requests. So when we are in the habit of negotiating even with God, I think it is important you go to the basics of knowing what you are asking. Correct? Fair enough? You don't need to be a PhD. I have not learned Sanskrit formally ever in my life, but I've ensured that I know what I need to know, which is very essential from a chanting perspective. So wherever there is an error, I will apply the best knowledge and make sure that my chanting is correct. So if you see Varna, pronunciation is extremely important. Without that, the chanting doesn't make sense. So I alluded that in the first class, where if in Gujarati, if you don't have sh, it doesn't matter. Start pronouncing sh because of the shlokas. You start pronouncing sh. You can easily cultivate that habit of pronouncing it the way it has to be. In Tamil, Mahesh will be pronounced as Magesh. The ha becomes ga. I don't know where it started. Whereas Bhagavati, where it has to be ga, becomes Bhavati. So now we can fight whether Sanskrit came first or Tamil came first, we don't know, but somewhere something is missing. So we have to take extra precaution in ensuring that Akshara is correctly pronounced. I will share one more PDF with the whole matrix of the vowels and consonants of Sanskrit, which will tell you from where you have to pronounce what Akshara. So you have to memorize that whole matrix. Very essential. And if you are not familiar, I think I have got an audio file also, or you can search in my channel in YouTube video. There are 9 weeks of classes. You can play this YouTube videos, which goes into the depth of how to pronounce those aksharas, etc. So if you go through the videos and still not able to learn, then I will probably take a couple of classes on that. Right now, I will skip that. I'll just go into the theoretical aspect of it. So sandhis are called Visarga, Anuswara, Anunasika. What are these things? Visarga is the colon, 2 dots. If you have seen Nama, 2 dots, it is Namaha. Right? So that colon, when it comes in the middle of a shloka or a rik, you cannot just read as it is. You must know how to substitute. So Namaha Astu, 2 different words. When you combine, it becomes Namo Stu. Namo is Tu. But between Mo and Is, there is a S letter, which is called Avagraha. So one is Visarga, one is Avagraha. 2 different purpose. If you have Na, Ma, Ha, A is Tu, the matra is fixed. Just because you are combining it or splitting it, you cannot change the matra or the meter. So when you combine, you apply the rule, but you do those fillers to keep the meter intact. So you must have read Namostu, Namostute. So if you are supposed to chant it as Namostu, but if in a rush or self-learning or learned from a teacher that does not have this background knowledge, you will chant it as Namostute. Correct? Look back and see how many times you chanted it as Namostute. That does not make any sense because there is no term or word called Namostu. It was Namaha and Astu combined as Namostu. So the rules are important. What you do when you combine, what happens when you do Padabhedam. So if you have a long word, like in Devi Mahatmyam, you'll have words that are nearly about 18 aksharas. So it's not easy for everybody to just pick up in one go. So you have to teach by breaking those words into individual words. So suddenly don't get confused. One hand you're teaching me Namostu, next class you're saying Namaha and Astu, I'm confused. No need to get confused. Visarga is one topic in those 5,500. Visarga chapter contributes 85. So you just have to remember 85 rules. If the Visarga comes before A, what needs to be done? If the Visarga comes before Sa, what needs to be done? Only 85 rules. The 9 weeks I spent only for 16 out of 85 rules. I applied the 80-20 rule because our aim is not to do PhD in Sanskrit. Our aim is to understand the techniques so that you chant well with knowledge. So 16 rules. Most common rule you can be safely following is half of the next akshara is what you need to do. So bhuvaha suvaha will become bhuvas suvaha because the first letter is sa. Half of that sa is bhuvas suvaha. That is how you conjugate. Make sense? So namaha shivaya. Terminology will be very familiar. You have to say namash shivaya. Om namash shivaya. If you say Om Namah Shivaya, you're cutting something off that originally God has given us. And if you don't know Sanskrit, you may not know that you're changing the entire meaning of it. So you don't want to make those mistakes. So Visarga is one. Anuswara is the dot on top of an akshara. Right? Can anybody give an example of an akshara with a dot at the top? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Give an example of a word with has Anuswara at the top. Go to the third anvaka of Shamakam straight away. शंच मे मयश्च मे प्रियंच मे नुकामश्च मे कामश्च मे. Right? So to explain the Anuswara rule, that Sha has got a dot at the top, followed by Cha. So then how do you pronounce that dot? The dot has got its own place, its own matra. So you cannot rush without giving adequate importance to that dot. So the rules are, if you understand the Sanskrit consonants, ka cha ta ta pa ya. That is what you will normally hear from people who learn Sanskrit. Ka cha ta ta pa are the 5 rows into 5 columns because ka varga. It's called a varga. Each row is called a varga. Ka, kha, ga, gha. The 5th column is nga. Cha, cha, ja, ja, nya. Are you familiar with that? It's not completely Greek and Latin, right? Okay. So Anuswara is a short form representation of the 5th column. For the sake of ease of writing and reading. So having said that, if the Anuswara is followed by any of the letters in the Ka Varga, Cha Varga, Ta, Ta, Pa Varga, you can replace the sound by im or in. So you can say it as Shamcha me, Majascha me, im. Lips closed, sound comes as im. Or Shancha me, Majascha me, both are correct. However, I chanted the Swasti in the beginning. There I said Sanyamindranam. It is because Sa followed by a dot at the top is followed by an akshara called Ya. So you are picking up an akshara from the Yara Lava Shasha Sasaha. In that case, it has to be a nasal sound. Sanyamindranam. Sanyam rakho. Right? However, if you see the Tamil version of that Swasti, Tamil doesn't recognize those rules. So they have written it as Samyamindranam. Ante Vasivarya. They will say Samyamindranam. So you have to know the differences. So Anuswara is an important letter that you need to know. Anunasika, on the other hand, is called Chandrabindu. That means there will be a semicircle or a half and a dot in that on top of that. Padmaja, you know the word in Devi Mahatmyam, very popularly used by all of us while teaching. Bhavan Lubdhair. Go back to the PDF and see. You will find it. Aankhon. That is a term which is all of you are familiar, right? Aankhon. Aankhon. Kh comes with the gush of air. Ka. Kh. Aankhon. Now, same word if I say aankhon, or if I say kana kaya, it's not exactly the same that you want to convey, right? You want to say khana khaya kya. It's the difference between khana and kana. Those are the differences that you need to be aware of. So anunasika means the sound has to be coming from nasal. There will be several places where you will see that. Now, dirgha and hraswa are referring to the meter. So I think I spent into the detail in terms of why it is not a unit of measure, it is not a second, etc. in the first class. So you can consider one blink of an eye or one tap of a finger is one matra. So one matra, two matra, one matra, two matra, which means the time taken for chanting pa will be one half of the time you take to chant pa. We'll come into the concept why the unit of measure is not a second or nanosecond or any of those things. So dirgha means long, hraswa means short. A is hraswa, or is dirgha. Swara. So akshara is important. Now the akshara is, yeah. No, your audio is not there. I can't hear you. Yeah, much better.
Yeah, no, what I want to know is this dirgha and rasva, how do you denote it? Just like
No, by akshara itself, you will have to know this is a hraswa or a dirgha. Simple, if you take the vowels, I, u, every alternate is a hraswa, dirgha. And if you go back to what I said in the first class, every other akshara is in the derivative form, up, uk, with the halant at the bottom. Only if you add a vowel of u, the ik gets a dimension or a shape. So ik becomes ka when it is added with a. Ik becomes ka if it is added with a. Ik becomes ku if it is added with u. Sonal, are you able to follow?
It's a bit hard for me, but
No, just like he asked question, you can ask. This is not going to be a monologue. You can ask questions. As I said, no question is a bad question.
thank you.
Yeah. So in other languages, we are used to being taught as saying kakha, kakha, ga, 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 straight away. Here you have to understand it is in the derivative form is ik, half of that ka. That ka is coming from the addition of the vowel. Right? So to Nitish's question, how will you know what is hraswa or dirgha? A is short. The way I'm pronouncing itself is short, right? A. So if you have to say a as a, instead if you take a while chanting, you are messing up the meter. A should be chanted as a only that much of time. So take a word papam. Pa should take twice the time of pa, and im can be written as ma with a halant, or im can be represented as a dot. Right? You can write bala im with a halant or bala im with a dot. It is one and the same. So if you write it as im with a halant, I will give one matra, but I will ignore it if it is a dot. It is not correct. And you will see this when I correct your chanting as you start chanting. Most people will rush without having to wait for that im to get completed. That im has got its own beauty and time required. That is why these matra concepts are very important. Right? Is it better now? Okay. Don't hesitate. Just stop and ask questions, just like he asked. Because later on I will forget, because I'm running so many classes, I don't remember nowadays what I'm talking in which class. So it is better to ask, or you can say, listen, I've heard this story many times, you can move on. So Dirgha and Hraswa, Nitish is...
Yeah, I just want to add one thing for Nitish's question. Nitish, when you say meeting, it is the me is extended, right? It is longer. That is the Dirgha. Dirgha is the longer version of ma. Ma, me becomes Dirgha, mi becomes Rasva. That's all I want to say. Yeah.
Right? Okay. So in Swara, I'll just quickly go through this because the Swara expansion is in the next document. Udatta is al Akshara which does not have any notation in the script. It will be just Akshara. Nothing is there means it is Udatta. Anudatta will carry a underline. So I get confused, Udatta, Anudatta. So I say underline. Anu underline starts with a similar sounding word. That is a good way to remember. Anudatta means underline. The note goes down. The swara goes down. Swarita is a vertical line. So you hit the high note there. And each swara is for an akshara. So imagine when you say Namah, Na Udatta, Ma Swarita. It has to quickly go because both have got only one matra. So you can't sleep and say Nama. It's not the same as Namah. But don't yet get confused with how do I know what is one matra. Have the patience, you will understand when we get into the concept of layam or the tempo. So if I ask you to blink an eye, the speed with which you will blink, Sonalji, might be different from the speed with which Nitish will blink. Both are one blink of an eye. That is why it is one matra. It is a tempo that is different. So if I prefix these things, oh, this is 1 second, I'm not saying the right thing. That is why the unit of measure is one matra is one blink of an eye or one tap of a finger. I can chant Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. My matra here, one matra will be more nanoseconds. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya Namaste Rudramanyo Udodeshavaya Namah. My tempo is way high. So my one matra will have a different conversion into nanoseconds. Those of you who had the opportunity to attend my Sashtabda you would have seen that. It was a live demo given by the Vaidikas. If you have not, you see the YouTube videos. You'll appreciate every bit of what I'm saying. So, Anudatta is that. Swarita is one vertical line. Nigada is a technical term. Not many people would have heard it because the more popular term is Dirgha Swarita. That means two vertical lines. I think I asked the example in the first class for somebody to give a example of the Dirgha Swarita. Do you remember now what we talked? Mute. You're on mute.
Double line is called Dirgha Swarita.
Double vertical line. Very popular word. Huh?
We say that is the thing.
Correct. Swaha. The two vertical lines on top of ha is called Dirgha Swarita. So you day Swaha, you extended ha, Dirgham. Okay. Matra, we already spoke a lot. I don't want to dwell much on that. Ardha Hrasva Dirgha Pluta. As we start into the chanting, I will talk about it. But it's all about 1 to 2 to 3, how many matras are there? There is a number of blinks. So when you talk of tempo and matra as a combination, imagine the best example is an accordion player. The same thing you expand it, the position between the plates do not change. They're always relative. It will go wider, the pitch will go wider and shorter, but they themselves do not change the position. So when you chant something faster, the ratio of 1 to 2 is still the same, Hrasva to Dirgha. But what is that 1? Is it 0.5 and 1, or is it 1 and 2, or is it 2 and 4? That changes. Okay? Balam is Alpa Prana and Mahaprana. Certain things have to be chanted soft. Certain things have to be chanted hard. Any quick example of soft? Especially Tamilians should be able to say that very quickly. Pushpam, that ish is soft. Shambho, both are hard. Correct? So Mahaprana is where you hold the Nabhi length, you have to push the air from the belly button upwards through the windpipe. Ha. Correct. Ha. Ha. Da. If you don't remember Baba Ramdev doing Kapalbhati on the India TV today, it is very easy to understand what you have to do. So that belly has to go in and out like a pump for Mahaprana. Sama is continuity. You don't take a break or a pause where you should not. It will change the meaning. There are predetermined places where you have to pause, make a break. Santanaha, it is punctuation, which is what I said. There are predetermined places where you have to pause. So now you can ask a question. How do I know if I read the script? First of all, none of these teachings were ever in writing. PDF is a more recent invention. So these things have been taught for millions of years. It's always oral. Always oral. Book is just as a handy thing for revising at home. Unfortunately, these days the reliance is heavily on the PDF. So you start reading it, you lose some sense of your brain capacity in the reflexes by reading. It impacts your chanting. So the sooner you get to memorizing things is better for you, because then you're using the full capacity of the brain to operate at a speed that you want it to. So is it clear so far, or is it confusing? Clear, right? The reason I'm spending so much time is unless the base is strong, your chanting will get corrected over and over again every time you open your mouth. And you don't want that, because that will be very demotivating. So now in Vedic recitation, the next slide, if you see something called Prakriti, which is natural. So the basic form in which we will be learning is called Samhita Pataha, which is continuous recitation. So if you know the Devanagari script, what is written there is Om Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagate. I didn't take a break. I didn't stop. Imagine if I had chanted the same thing like this. Om Isha Vasya Midam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam. It is not the same. You're not producing the same harmonics that was intended to be. Very easy, right? Not difficult to follow this. So go back to class 1. Prana, essential tool for good chanting. Breath control, increase the lung capacity, focus, physical stability of your system. I conduct back-to-back classes. I don't say, oh, I started Jana Shlokam in the beginning, so I'm going to skip it for the second and third class. No, I do it again. If you just get up and go walk and come back, your heartbeat will be pumped up. It takes time for it to stabilize. So it is important that you have mental focus, mental stability, physical stability, and healthy lifestyle and practice for you to say there is no allergy, there is no nose blockage, there is no cough, throat irritant, etc. There are several factors for you to be able to chant it properly, right? Pada patha, so word for word recitation. This is where you come to pada bhedam. A long word can be broken down. Can anybody give a very good example of where you have experienced this? Simple. When you bring Vadyar to your home, he knows you are not an expert. So he says, Mamo Partha, Samasta, Durita, Kshayadvara, piece by piece. Whereas if I sit and Vadyar knows that this guy knows, he will chant like Mamo Partha, Samasta, Durita, Kshayadvara, Shri Parameshwara Prithirtham, Shubhe Shobhane Murti Adya Brahmanati Devarate Shvedavara Kalpe. He will go with that speed with me. But for somebody else who was not used to it, he'll say Mama Upartha, breakdown. So this is Padapatha. So the same line or rik is split into Isha, Vasyam, Idam. So now you can go both forward and backward. Vasyam, Idam, when you combine, becomes Im plus E, becomes me. That is why it has become Vasyam Idam. Sonal, are you able to follow? Yeah, the way you see a halant or a line at the bottom of ma is called halant. Only when you add a vowel, it becomes a consonant, right? So, sarvam, yat, kincha, jagatyam, jagat is broken down. Then the next style is called krama pataha. Krama is repeat, word recited in pairs. Isha, vasyam, vasyam, idam, idam, sarvam, sarvam, yat, yat, kincha, kincha, jagatyam, jagatyam, jagat. If you say, what is the use of learning all these things when we don't chant it? No. Next time when you attend Ekadasi Rudrabhishekam, you will see they will do Rudra Krama Archana at the end. They will chant Om Namo Namo Bhagavate Bhagavate Rudraya Rudraya Namaha. That they will continue doing Archana with the Krama pattern. Right? Now there are many other patterns which are called Vikruti. Vikruti is unnatural. Prakriti, Vikruti. So in Vikruti, the Jata is a pattern where you do 1 2 2 1 1 2. Similarly, 2 3 3 2 2 3. So if you take the idam, vasyam, idam, can somebody say how this jata will look like? Make an attempt. Don't be so scared.
I'll try. Can I start?
Your mic is a little inaudible. You have to take the mic closer, or maybe you just chant louder.
Is this okay?
Better.
Okay, let me try. Vasya, vasyamidam, vasyamidam, idam vasyam, vasyamidam.
Better. But if you start with Isha, that is the first word.
Oh, sorry.
So it will read as Isha Vasyam Vasyam Isha Isha Vasyam. Clear? Radha? Padmaja, you missed it. I just translated the Jata rule, how it will sound if you chant by the Jata pattern. Isha Vasyam Vasyam Isha Isha Vasyam. So it is 1 2 2 1 1 2. Got it? Followed by the next will be Vasyam idam idam Vasyam Vasyam idam. It takes so much effort for us to even understand how to do it. The Vadyars that come to your house, they do it in a jiffy. Memorized. Sorulji, are you able to follow? Sorulji, are you able to follow now what we are talking?
It's hard for me.
No, you see the first line. We started with Samhita Pata as something called Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam.
Yes.
We understood in Padapata that it is made up of multiple words. Isha, Vasyam, Idam, Sarvam. If you see, there are numbers on top of it. 1, 2, 3, 4. The position of those words in the Rik or the Shloka.
Yeah.
So when somebody says 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2 means 1 is Isha, 2 is Vasyam.
Okay.
So you repeat 2 again, Vasyam. Then you say 1, 1. Then you say 2. Correct?
Yes.
So that is a jata pattern. So imagine the whole Veda you have to chant like this.
Yes.
Then the mala pattern is 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3. So if I have to follow and tell somebody, please chant the whole thing in mala pattern, they will say Isha Vasyam Vasyam Isha Isha Idam.
Got it. Yeah.
Now imagine it is so difficult to even learn Isha Vasyam Idam itself is difficult to learn. Now you expect the person to chant in the jata pattern, in the mala pattern. Same way you can apply the other rules. I don't want to go into the details. You can figure out, extrapolate. Shikha is 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. Rekha, Dwaja, Danda, Ratha, and finally Ghana. Ghana pattern is 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. We are always people with shortcuts, right? We don't have patience to go through everything. Many people who are not avid readers, they will start with the first chapter. Immediately they would like to turn to the last chapter and the last page of the book. Let me see how the story ends. Based on that, I will decide whether I have to read the full book or keep it aside. That is the human tendency. So why Ghana pattern is popular or known is because when you invite a Vadyar and he is called as Ghana Particle means a person who has graduated to Ghana level. Minimum, I'm told it takes about 16 years to reach that level. Dedicated only Vedic studies. So example, Om Ganana Am Twa Ganapatikam Avamahe Kavim Kavinam. This is how I chanted in the beginning. If I have to chant the same thing, Sonalji, in Ghana pattern, I will say Om Ganana Am Twa Twa Ganapatikam Ganapatikam Twa Ganapatikam Twa Havamahe. I will keep on doing this pattern. So each rik, each line is broken down like that. So imagine the millions of hours those people spend to get that accuracy. And you can't just blabber something. Matra, swara, everything has to be correct. Have you ever seen a Vadhyar keeping a PDF or a book in front of him and say, okay, next I will read and tell you? No, I'm the only Vadhyar that probably does that. Proper educated Vadhyar, legal people will do it by heart. Paralegal like me will always refer something because I'm always afraid I'll forget something. Though that is a phenomenon only in the last few years. My Vadhyar also gave me Nataraj pencil spanking to memorize everything. We used to memorize. We used to chant by memory. Now, if you think this is the end of the world, there is something called Salakshana Ganapadiga. Postdoc. So, Prano Devi, 2 words. Saraswati Vaje Bhirvajinivati Dhinam Avitriyavatu. If you time it, it will not go more than 12 seconds. A Salakshana Ganabhadigal will take 3.5 minutes to chant. Because for each akshara, ip, Pranodevi consists of ip, ir, a. When combined, it becomes pra. So they will remember the entire Vedas with ip and explanation of the 6 attributes of that akshara ip. All of this thing in the previous slide that I talked about, Swara, Matra, Bala, they will describe it and chant the Veda. I will share a video. There was a Veda Sadas that was organized in New Jersey where one of the Vadya that is known very closely to me, the person that respects me, gave a live demo of how to do the chanting. If you think that is the end of the world, they don't get Salakshana Garavadigal by just doing that. They must be in a position to do that reverse also. Imagine the level of expertise that that person should have. As I speak, I'm choking up. If you find one Salakshana Garavadigal, fall at their feet. Easiest and shortest way to get good karma. It's a rarity. We need to preserve them before they become extinct. I don't mind taking another small credit there. Vidya's grandfathers are all Salakshana Garabadigal. The great grandfather did Somayagam. So when people say, oh, you're doing a great job, oh, you chant well, not because of what we have achieved in our life, it's all the blessings of those generations that we carry the coupons and live our life. So in turn, we have to do some good things so that our great grandchildren will have enough coupons in their lives. That is why we do this. So far, so good. I think we still have time, right? Yeah, 5 minutes. Any questions?
Very silly question.
Yeah.
So when you can say things straight, why do you have to do 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, so many things? I mean, when you can say straight, why do we have to do the
Yes.
Ghana way?
Right. That I can easily demonstrate in the next class, where I will say each one will independently repeat what I chanted. Everything is verbal, oral, correct? So if I say Namo, if I ask each one of you to say repeat Namo, you can measure it with the waveform. Each one will be different. Not any one of us will be same. So how do you preserve the integrity of the chanting? They have said if you chant it in any of these 16 different waves, if you still see there is a asynchronization, both of you or one of you is wrong. Fix it. It is the most exhaustive calibrating mechanism that I've ever heard or read in my life. That is why you see Ganapadigal when they come to your home, if you say, please do Parayan, they can start at 4:30 in the morning. They will be up chanting at 10:30 in the night. The energy level, Matra, Swara, everything will be the same. They won't say, I'm tired. How many times I've corrected in Devi Mahatmyam class? People will come tired to the class. Suddenly, the Swara will, like, it will be like a balloon losing its air before you complete the Rik. Right? Triambagam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam. Do you see the stability in the voice? Same thing. Triambagam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam is not the same. And you cannot do the second thing, which I did. It has to be the way first thing. You ask me to repeat it 10,000 times in a day, I have to do it exactly the same. Because go back to the basics. you have to reproduce the intended harmonics. There is no Chinmaya version, there is no Sadguru version or any other version of Veda. There is only one version. Because 1.6 billion people, if they start chanting in a negative way, wrong way, it will produce cacophony which can have far reaching consequences. So they have given the rules to stress the importance of accurate chanting. So when you step in to say, I want to learn all these things, you're making a sankalpam or commitment that I will follow what the rule says, not get frustrated and say, this is the best I can do. That scope doesn't exist. In plain shloka chanting, it is okay. In chanting like this, you don't have the scope. Right? So with this background, go through the Swara document and see if you have questions. We will start with that in the next class. And then straight get into Ganapati Atharvasirsham. We'll finish that and then we'll come to Mandukya Upanishad, though it is not the orthodox way of teaching because Sonalji has asked for that for a long time. We will make sure that those two things are learned properly before we get deeper into other topics.
Mundaka.
So put any wish list if you have saying that these are the things that I would like to learn in priority, then we can restructure the way in which we proceed. In any event, we are going to cover all the topics. Fair enough? Radha, anything new you learned or all these things were known to you?
In the Sooktams, you'll be doing the Mera Sooktam also?
Absolutely. Medha Devi Jashamana. One of the most beautiful Sooktams that I always love. Medha Sooktam. One by one. Okay? Yeah. Radha, you're able to hear me or audio?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
able to hear you. In fact, I'm only wanting to learn from you. I don't want to tell you I know something or I don't know something. So if I have learned also, I will unlearn.
Hey, அப்படியெல்லாம் இல்ல. It's always this is always a two-way street.
Till when we are young, like for example, Ramraksha Stotram is repeated, Charitam Raghunath.
Exactly, yes.
Ekaikam Aksharam Pumsam Mahapatakanasam.
Correct.
My dad would tell the meaning also, and every day half word or half syllable, then he'll say po, valadu po, abhi.
Correct.
I mean, it was never thrust. Playfully, I have learned.
Exactly.
So now I'm doing the real part of it.
Yeah.
I have a love for the language. I don't know Sanskrit, but I really like and the words, the meaning. In fact, when you were saying about this Dhanapati part, it is more like a musical thing also because when you learn music, you go into Swarams and come back, and there is a permutation and combination which can fit into that.
Yeah.
Of course, I've not tried reciting the way you are doing. I know some shlokas, so this is the first time I'm learning any Sooktam or something of that.
Yeah. The beauty is, every time the topic of what is the purpose of learning all this and chanting all this is because most people think that these are all some blabbering of mantras which has got no relevance in our life. Even if you want to go beyond just the sound and harmonics that I keep talking about, some people say, oh, this fellow Aryabhatta has contributed to the inventing zero. Somebody says, oh, the Greeks were the people responsible for the decimal system. And naturally, you'll see a smirk come on my face. And somebody will say, why? You don't agree with that? I said, obviously, I don't agree with that. There was no invention of zero by anybody. Aryabhatta revealed zero to the world. That's it. He was the instrument through which we came to know what. He didn't invent zero. Oh, how can you say that? I said, go to the 11th Anvaka of Chamakam. Eka chame, tisrashchame, panchachame, saptachame, navachame, eka dashachame, trayo dashachame. What is dashachame? Dasha system itself was there. So the Greeks have adopted that and converted into decimal, dasha decimal. It is not just about taking credit for everything that we have it in Vedas. You all don't know anything. I have done one special class on demand from people, and I think if I can share the PDF also. There is a complete arithmetical pattern We learn about so many other theorems and Pascal formulas and everything. These patterns,
Fact,
no,
even the calculation of yoga has so many zeros, which is
absolutely,
not simple. And the basic fact that there were 100 Kauravas and that comes in Mahabharata is much before Aryabhatta or whoever invented it.
exactly,
The number, zero is always there.
exactly. So go see if on the YouTube channel. I think it's a public video. It's
Okay.
it is not again my invention. I have taken the inspiration from a Bangalore person who is again an ex-chartered accountant converted to a Vedic scholar. His name is Ganapati. He is doing a lot of these stuff very interestingly, which should appeal to the modern day people. And saying, yes, we have inherited something really that we need to be proud of. So great. I think we spent enough time. It was a very good session. But the reason why I say you also talk is, I taught Kanakadara Stotram. So you all learn one version of what, as you rightly said, your grandfather taught you. That is what you know. You don't know. Maybe there are 10 different versions of the same shloka. But I knew Kanakadara. There was at least 3 different versions, popular official versions. And I made sure in the class I announced that of the 3, I have chosen this because this is what I have learned. So I can teach you only what I have learned. I can't teach you something that I have not learned. Maybe my research was not sufficient. And there are global people who are in this class. There was a lady from Bangalore. After the class, she sends an audio file to me. Guruji, is this right or what you taught is right? My instant response was, you can't ask me to validate God. She got confused. She says, no, I am asking you to validate this audio, whether what is said in this audio is right or what you taught me is right. I said, my answer is clear. You can't validate God. No, I didn't understand. Please explain. I said, the audio file that you said, I'm sure you know whose audio it is. No, I don't know. I said, I know. It was Mahapariva's voice. And he explains in depth in sloka number 13 what is the correct version, what Gita Press or some Ramakrishna Matam printed once, and how that became a popular version. The world over, everybody is teaching and learning that. And the way I explained the Bharya concept, he explains the impact of wrong learning or chanting. So it was a wake up call for me. So in next class, I acknowledged that this happened on YouTube. And I said, I'm sorry, what I taught you is wrong. This is the correct version. Immediately she sends message. I've never seen anybody do this. My respect for you has gone 100 times more. So point is, just because I'm sitting on this side doesn't make me a know-all of everything. There's always some learning that will be there. Some corrections will be there. At the end of the day, whatever we are learning has to be accurate. That should be the aim. Great. Sonalji, Daromat, open up and ask questions. Everybody is learning. Yeah, we are all children of God. So we are all learning all the time till we breathe our last.
Sonal has a very good voice. Whenever she speaks, it's very sweet.
Good observation. Yeah. Okay. Take care. Thank you. Have a great day. Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Bye bye.
Sure.